If you're a boss or a decision maker, that could be in sales, HR, marketing, operations, you name it, and you're thinking, my team don't seem very happy, they don't seem very motivated, and I'm worried that they might leave me, leave the organization, but really leaving you, then this is the show for you. You're going to be looking with me in the next half an hour or so lots of reasons why people are leaving in droves from their industries and lots of different solutions to make them stay in place and love working for you. If they leave, what are you going to do? Don't worry about it. Watch this show and you'll never have to stress about it again. This is Speak on Stage. Welcome to Speak on Stage with Dave Crane, the podcast where we unpack the art and science of public speaking to help you command the stage with confidence and authority. I'm your host, Dave Crane, and as a seasoned speaker, coach, and entertainer, I've had the privilege of helping thousands of individuals like you to unlock their true potential on stage all around the world. Each week, we'll bring you candid conversations with industry experts, successful speakers, and thought leaders, delving into proven strategies, practical tips, and personal anecdotes to empower you to become a captivating communicator. So whether you're a seasoned pro looking to refine your skills, or a beginner taking your first steps onto the stage, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering the craft of public speaking. So grab your notepad, open your mind, and get ready to amplify your impact as we embark on this journey together. Welcome to Speak on Stage with Dave Crane. Together, let's jump and grow wings on the way down. He seems quite smart, doesn't he? Yes, Dave, it's you. How did you know that? Because it's always you. Why is it always me? Because you've got no voice over people that you invest in. You just use your own voice all the time. Get out of my head. Anyway, welcome to the show. My name is Dave Crane. In this podcast, we'll be going through a number of different things, including a question, which is this. I mentioned it earlier. Why does your team want to leave you? If you're a decision maker or a company owner or a boss of some description, you're probably already dealing with this at some stage. And it's a number of factors that hit you. First of all, somebody who you really like turns around and says, right, I'm off now. You said, well, why? Well, because I just don't feel I'm looking for an opportunity to grow. Well, you've got plenty of chances to grow here. Yeah, but it's not quite right. And you think, well, you're one of my best people. You're my sales team or one of my most innovative managers and so on. And the problem is that if somebody is a really, really good member of staff, the odds are that that same driver that makes them engage at your company also makes them want to engage at somebody else's company because they just don't feel something is right. Now, I know you're thinking, Dave, what does that mean? Well, let me just share something with you. First of all, when you get people there's a survey that was done on a regular basis by Gallup. I remember watching some interviews about it and so on, and it basically said that your organization is split up into three different categories. I should really have the graphic for this, but I don't. First category is people who are engaged at work. That's about 20% on average. People who love going to work, they're happy, they're very productive, they're bringing lots of sales, they keep everybody really engaged, and the customers love them. So that's the first bit. But underneath them is on average about 55% of your company who are called not engaged. Now, what's not engaged? Well, not engaged means they're not as engaged as those other people, and they're kind of like, they like the job, they like getting paid, they don't hate it, but it's just a job. And they could leave and go somewhere else, but they don't want to. They're kind of all right with this. They've done it for a while. It pays the bills and gets some holidays and keeps the staff happy and so on. And so they kind of stay with that. Now, the thing is about not engaged people is they're the ones that ask difficult questions. Why? Because they're constantly trying to work out if they should be more engaged or not. And that's why they ask questions. And then you've got a little bit underneath called the actively disengaged. Now, actively disengaged hate the job. They don't want to be there. And that means if you work it out, it's about 25% of them are there. Depends on the country, depends on the organization. It changes, but it's about those kind of averages. So 25% of the organization are called actively disengaged. They hate the job. They hate working there. They hate you. They hate their colleagues. But guess what? They don't say anything. Why complain? Just take the wage. But they also steal. They steal time. They steal pens. They steal energy. But they say bad things about the job to anybody who'll listen. But at work, they don't say anything. So when you turn around, you ask a question to the entire team, and you say, right, what do you think of this? And all the actively engaged ones go, me, and say, no, I want to ask somebody else. Somebody else puts their hands up and asks a question. And you go, oh, goodness me, this is draining me. Why are you asking these horrible questions? That's not somebody who hates your company. That is somebody who's not engaged yet. They're asking questions to be able to work out whether they should step up or step away. The actual toxic people, the actively disengaged people, don't ask questions because they're not bothered what the answer is. They really don't care. So when you say, has everybody got that? They go, yeah, got it. Hate it. Not going to do it. And they don't tell people that, or they might tell people. They usually keep it themselves. But the thing is, you're so busy trying to turn them round, you ignore the people at the top of the food chain, the actively engaged ones, who bring about 80% of the business, who then turn around and say, I can't handle this anymore. And why? Because you've been a great boss, yeah, but they look at the ones at the bottom of the food chain, the actively disengaged, that you're spending a lot more time with, trying to flip them to make them buy in, and all the ones that really do damage to what's going on, who don't bother filing reports or don't turn up often or whatever it is, and they say, this company reminds me of those people, not the other people. I'm off. I'm going to go to a company where I might not be paid as much money as being paid now. That's not what floats my boat. That's not what gets me to go to work. I come to work because I love what I do, and you guys don't love what I do very much because you clearly don't love what you do enough. So I'm going to work for somebody else, even if they pay me less money, where I feel that their heart is really in it and I can flourish, and I'll make the money back somehow anyway. Probably getting a job selling pizzas. I don't know. We don't say that. So do you understand there's 3 different levels? Right, good. Let's get back to where we were. Big deep breath. So the question was this: why does your team want to leave you? Well, that's because they're usually in the not engaged, or they're in the actively engaged. The actively disengaged ones, the ones at the bottom of the food chain, don't care. It doesn't matter what you do. They'll only leave when you catch them out and you let go of them. Okay. Welcome to Speak on Stage. This is a podcast where you can get us on all the good podcast delivery systems at Spotify, iTunes, and wherever else you normally get your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe and make sure you check out the previous shows I've done with lots of interviews of incredible stars. In fact, this is actually season 4, and seasons you're meant to actually do in about 24 episodes maximum, and this is like episode 40 or 41, I'm not sure. And getting to this many different episodes of this, and I'm sorry if the picture's sticking, episode 40 or 40, it's sticking again. Why is it sticking? Why is it? Have I pressed the wrong button? It's probably the internet, isn't it? That's what it is. The internet's slowing things down. How would you know, Dave? It just does. Okay, so get back to where we were. Episode 41, when you've got 24 episodes, you should be having a podcast. Why haven't you started a new season, Dave? Because I forgot. Okay, and I might change it and I might not. This might go up to 100 million episodes in season 4. That'd be great value if you buy them by episode or buy them by season, and really rubbish value if you bought the other ones instead. You don't buy them, they're all free. Anyway, moving on. So welcome to today's podcast. And if you're catching us live, then please feel free to leave comments. If you don't catch me live, which is a replay, which 90% of people see, then still leave comments and I will answer them when I go back and look at your comments, okay? So don't worry about it. You are not ignored, you are valued. And please like and share it so lots of other people can like it and share it as well. Okay, and comment, because as I mentioned, I love that. So this is Speak on Stage. I'm Dave Crane, blah, 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 blah. Let's go on with it. Now, if all your meetings look like this, then you're probably a teacher of some description, but you might not be a teacher. Now, if you're listening to a podcast, you're saying, what's the picture, Dave? I've got a classroom full of teenagers who all look bored. Bored. There's a kid at the back with a long beard. That's not necessary, I guess. Thank you, ChatGPT. But the rest of them don't really want to be there. And I know you probably aren't a school teacher, but you're thinking, well, how does that stay relevant? Well, because you might just be a boss. In which case you hold meetings and everyone's looking at you, but you can tell they've gone on holiday in their head while they're staring at you. There's nobody in there. Any questions? No. Why not? because I didn't hear what you said in the first place. So if your meetings feel and look a bit like this, then this is the show for you. So why is it so hard to keep staff happy and motivated? Well, there's several reasons why this happens. Let me share a few of you right now. First of all, lack of recognition. If you don't let them know that what they do matters, then they'll stop trying to be recognized for doing stuff and they'll just do their job. No more than that, no less than that, just enough to still be getting paid. And that takes them from, remember what I said at the beginning of a session, from being not engaged, it takes them into actively disengaged because nobody cares what they do, so you might as well not even bother so much. There's no growth path. So all the hard work that's being put in, they don't know whether anyone's paying attention, and also, can I get rewarded for doing this extra work? If the answer is no, then why am I doing the extra work? I'll just do what I need to do to keep everybody sweet. Does that make sense to you? Now, if you're a boss and this resonates with you, then it'll make a big difference. If you're a solopreneur, you've probably got this going on in your head and going, well, Dave, I feel this is no growth path. I feel there's lack of recognition. So how do I deal with this? Well, if you're a solopreneur or you're an entrepreneur, then you have to create this validation elsewhere. So you're internal, and you can't really make yourself value yourself more. Well, you can a little bit, but you need to send it out to the rest of the world so the rest of the world is recognizing you. Does that make sense? Yes, Dave. Thank you. Next. Okay, is this overemphasis on metrics. If everyone's just obsessed with the KPIs and the facts and the figures and all the rest of it, it kind of gets to you after a while, because you should think about the people too, because it's not just the data that matters, it's the people delivering the data. It depends on what your organization is into. But in my opinion, if you really want to have a happy workforce, remember to look for a happy workforce. Number 4, transactional leadership. So focusing on the tasks, but not focusing on the relationship you have with your team. And it's very easily done, especially when you're in the middle of management and you've got people above you, people below you, and the people above you are saying, bring more money. We want to make more money. I want more stocks and shares and holidays and... That's a whip, by the way. It's not really just a noise I made with my mouth, but I don't have a whip, so that's the best we're going to get. And when they do that and they don't concentrate on relationships between staff, yeah, okay, when you're winning, it's fine. But when things are difficult, or you change management, or you change staff, or you're going for a crisis like a pandemic, those things are not enough, because you can't be transactional. You've got to actually be a proper leader. Next up is number 5, pure communication. Sorry, poor communication, not pure. That was bad communication on my part. Employees feel unheard. Let me give you an example by that, why that matters. What's the number one reason for why customers stop working with you and leave and go somewhere else? This is customers, not talking about staff, customers. Well, the number one reason that customers leave you, we can edit that out, can't we? Can we take it out? He said, looking at a jacket. The number one reason why customers leave you is because they don't feel special. They feel you don't value them, you don't think they're very important, and so why not just go somewhere else where they do feel that you're worth more? So let me give an example about that. Have you ever been to Starbucks? Yes, of course you have. You go to Starbucks, and is a coffee more expensive than it would be to make it in your own house? Yes. It's probably about 3 or 4 times, maybe even more expensive to go to Starbucks and sit there on your own or whatever it is, drinking coffee that you could make at home. So why is it important to go there? Because they put your name on the cup. I'm going to say, have you got Dave? You go, yes, it's me. Well, your cup's there waiting. You go, Dave, it says Dave on it. And they go, no, we've written Pave. Who wrote Pave? My name's not Pave. Say, yeah, but my D's and my P's look very similar. You should see how I write B. Is that a B? Yeah, it's a B. So I'm now called Bave. You are. Doesn't happen to Starbucks, otherwise I get sued. But you get the point. The whole point is they personalize it so you feel special, which makes you want to go back and spend whatever it takes because you know that they care about you and they remember your name. And if the staff are the same staff, they tell you that we've kept your seat free for you. And would you like to have a scone or a scone? Depends whether you're English or not. I say scone, but my wife says scone. Anyway, or there's lots of cakes available too. So that's basically what's important. Poor communication, staff don't feel heard, just like customers don't feel heard. Number 6 is this, a cultural disconnect. There's lots of differences between the staff, and you've not been babysitting the diversity properly, so they feel that they're in silos where they can't talk to anybody else, and they all feel like they're kind of in a prison that pays, so it's not a proper prison, and they want to feel that they can connect, or at least be valued more. Number 7, I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see and read it properly. The work-life imbalance. So you're working all the hours, you don't really have a life, and you just don't get flexible at work and at home. It's just too much of everything. And so you get stressed, and it makes a big difference. You can't talk to anybody because nobody's interested in talking to you. And also the factor that sometimes it seems a sign of weakness if you say, I don't like it, this isn't very good. They say, well, you can go, there's a door. Anybody else? And everyone goes. If you're listening to the podcast, I just pretended to silence myself by zipping up my mouth. It was hilarious. All right, next up is this. Number 8, Spirit, I've said that. Fear of speaking up, which means you've got concerns and ideas suppressed. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say. And so you just keep it to yourself and become actively disengaged. Number 9, lack of team cohesion. So you're in silos, I mentioned this earlier, and you just don't work together. This is a real problem when you've got different departments and a really big organization, because they act as if they're rivals to each other. They're all trying to get daddy's or mummy's attention and say, we're really important, give us more money. But at the same time, they're not working with anybody else to try and get the very best results, which makes it really hard, if you're a boss, to work out why is it that people aren't really gelling together. And then the final part of this is no sense of purpose. Work feels meaningless. Why are we doing this? And this is a real issue, especially in jobs where you've got a set task to do. Do you remember the old factory lines where you'd be building a gadget or a widget or something, you put it all together and you pass it on to the next person puts something on it and then adds an extra bit and moves it on to the next, and so on. Or maybe you're decorating a cake. I don't think it gets done in factories the same way. But the point is, if you don't know what happens next, you don't know what happens to the end result, everything seems meaningless and it means nothing to you. Are you with me so far? Yes, Dave. Thank you. So that's just a couple of reasons. I won't go into emotional intelligence, but I mean, you can tell with that straight away that they don't feel the empathy at work. Even if there is plenty of it, there's reasons why they're feeling disconnected. So what do you need to do? There's a couple of things. You need to be able to communicate effectively. Why would that matter? Well, when you learn to speak business personal, and I know you're thinking, what's business personal? Well, business personal is the idea that you have it amongst your team, that you get each tough job done with warmth and empathy. So even if it's difficult, it doesn't matter if it's difficult. The fact is you're in it together and you're all going to help each other, and you enjoy the good days, the bad days equally, or good days probably more. And so that's how you view life. And if you're on the same page, then it's great. If you don't do it like that, then people feel siloed. They feel like they're on their own, and it makes you have to do twice as much work to get the whole team to play together, even if they don't play together. Next on this is effective communication skills. Do you and or your team at the top of the food chain, or the top table, or just whatever leadership position, are you really good at being effective and speaking? Now, it depends on your own style, it depends on the industry you're in, depends on the people that you have working with you, but you need to find the best one to reach them. It doesn't mean being loud in people's faces. It just means that they turn around and go, yeah, I get it. And they understand the communication style that you have, so they can relay that back and copy it as well when this matters. So effective communication is really important. Next up, interpersonal communication. It means being able to talk across barriers, across challenges, across diverse backgrounds. So you therefore can get on with people really, really, really well. And they can understand exactly what it is that you want and how to fix headaches. Really important too. Written communication, how many people use abbreviations and how many people have the most worst writing in the world? I've got to admit I am. I could give you an example here if I had a pen. But when I write something, I hand it over and they go, did you headbutt the page? No, I didn't. That's my writing now, because I use keyboards now more than anything. And I play pianos like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's a funny joke. I'll wait for you to catch up with that one. So my handwriting has gone to pot, like I mentioned, but that's not the only thing that matters. Your ability to type, your ability to communicate really effectively matters too. It doesn't have to be handwritten, but it can be sometimes. But just making sure that what you write does go into people's heads and they do get exactly where you're at, and they can get back to you with a clear answer. Now, most people do it okay, but only a handful of people really understand by asking the question, what's in it for them? And they get bogged down by politics and other things to make sure that they don't really do great communication skills because they're saying what the boss wants and not what they know is best for that relationship with that particular member of staff or group of staff. So this matters. Next up is this: conflict resolution and difficult conversations. If you're finding it hard at work to get on with somebody, or you're finding it's difficult to be able to talk about it, that's what you need. You need to really up your game on effective communication skills. This one now is team communication and motivation, understanding what motivates your team, understanding how to get the thing moving when you're working with them. Many people don't. It becomes easy when it's a small group. When it becomes a bigger group, it's really tough. Or they can motivate themselves, but the idea of working on a team is just like, it's like being on a different planet. They really can't do it. Next is this: negotiation and influence. Let's take it the other way around. Let's start with influence. As he said, getting his coffee cup out. Can you see this? Friends. Friends there. See that from a famous TV show from the 90s. I had a picture of them somewhere, but I can't find it. And here's the thing, right? My name is Dave Crane, which you probably worked out. And David Crane is a writer of Friends. And sometimes he gets booked for me, or I get booked for him. I remember an inquiry coming in a couple of months ago saying, David Crane, yes, we want to book you. We want to hire you to speak to our workforce. Great, I'm in. Here's my credentials. And then he came back to me a day later and said, you're Dave Crane, aren't you? I said, yes. They said, we're looking for David Crane, a writer of Friends. We're all big fans of a TV show. We're not fans of yours. In fact, we don't even watch you on LinkedIn. We go click, and we just have across the company, just a blank screen. That's what we think it didn't happen. None of that. But what did happen was they found out I wasn't David Crane, and so they decided not to hire me. They wanted the real David Crane. So I just call myself Dave Crane, so I don't get confused. And these guys who did get it confused were idiots. So going back to where we were again, negotiation and influence, take it around. Starting with influence is really important because then people know who you are, what you do, and what it is that you can change for them. And negotiation is the skills that you need to be able to make sure that's a reality. So when somebody's influenced by you and you want to turn it into something more special, for whatever reason, work-wise or so on, the negotiating really helps to be able to get them to go, yep, you're right, I'm into that. Fantastic. Crisis and change communication. Let's take them one step at a time. What's crisis communication? Well, something's gone really wrong in your organization. Something so difficult, so challenging, so tough that you have to get a team in and you say, right, how should we deal with this? So an example of crisis communication would be if you're working in the oil industry like Exxon was, and you've got a big oil leak like they had. How do you cover it up? What do you do when people are saying, but it's your fault, we're going to demand money from you, and so on? You've got to somehow diffuse it without necessarily insulting people and let them know that you are there for them, even if it's a really tough time. So that's crisis communication. And then change communication. When you do alter things in your organization, like introducing AI, or even just changing cafeteria, then you have to be able to communicate with people that things have changed for the better. And if you don't do it for the better and explicitly let people know that, they feel let down and they want to leave. I'm telling you this now because later on you might not know. Cross-departmental and functional communication. That means when you deal with different departments, I've mentioned that you want to be able to make sure they're on the same page in terms of the values you have, the mission, and also that they understand you properly. And so that means that you've got to really understand what makes you tick when you talk to people. Number 10 is presentation skills for small groups and one-to-ones. Do you really know how to communicate with people, or do you just take it to conversation when it starts? It is what it is. But when you've got a small group of people, they're all watching you and watching each other to see if it's going to be a congruent thing, if it's going to work, if their interests are going to be upheld by you. So you need to make sure that you are aware of the group that you're doing and also be aware of the feedback loops that you're going to have. People nodding is good. People saying yes and no is good. People going and just doing their own thing, regardless, in front of you is not good. So you need to work out your presentation skills so you keep people engaged all the way through. All right, dealing with difficult conversations. Sometimes you've got to pull staff to one side and tell them something, and most staff don't like it. They don't like being given even constructive criticism. It still feels like it's criticism. So maybe what you need to do is soften the blow. There's ways of doing it. Same kind of ways that if you're a policeman, you've got to go around and tell somebody that they've lost a dear member of family. There's a way of doing it. I'll be sharing with you how to do that at some future episode. But it's really interesting and really important, so now you'll never know. No, I could tell you, but I'm not going to because we've got a lot of time to go through this stuff. Next up is cultural sensitivity and inclusion. I mentioned this earlier about diversity, but if you can communicate with people so they feel part of your organization, then they will stay with your organization. It's very unlikely that they're going to leave because of the fact that everything they've ever wanted is available through you. If they feel that you're isolating them and you're leaving them on their own and nobody wants to help and they just feel the work going to work just make the numbers up, then they will leave. And they'll probably leave with a big smoke, not a cigarette, just a feeling that it's just not right for them. And that word will spread. So you need to make sure that you're on top of all that. Next up, problem solving and decision making. Are you a communicator that's able to turn around and put things into departments about what's good, what's bad, what's ugly, what you can fix, what you can't fix, and all the things that go with that particular strain of mind? Well, if you're not very good at problem solving, the odds are you're not very good at communication. Not everything can be done with a pen and paper writing it down. Sometimes you need to talk to people to get their opinion to be able to fix what it is that you haven't fixed yet. Does that make sense? Yes, thank you. And then communication in hiring, onboarding, and letting go. 3 things. So first of all, hiring somebody. What's the process for getting somebody? What communication styles do you use when you're marketing? Looking for that new salesperson or that new head of operations or that nurse that you were hoping to get to work in your hospital. What is it that you need to say that's going to get people engaged? Number 2 is onboarding. I mentioned it there. So there's hiring. Onboarding is when they've arrived in your organization. You want to be able to, and the phrase is wrong, bed them in as quickly as possible, but you want to embed them into your organization as quickly as possible. Otherwise, you end up losing about a whole person's worth of salary while they get up to speed and you're paying how much you paid for the other person during that time as well. So you want to make sure you're onboarding as swift as possible so they feel confident in what you do and they just want to stay there. And letting go. How do you do that? How do you let people go? How do you say, you know what, you're dismissed? There's ways of doing it that empowers people and doesn't get into any damage or any challenges, like you're being sued. And you need to know what they are. Next up is this: how to network effectively, how to turn up at places, and how to do stuff on LinkedIn, and how to make sure that you've got relationships curated from every conversation that you have. It's all networking. Not always in person, sometimes online, but in person is, of course, very popular nowadays because the pandemic is gone. Well, most of it anyway. So how to network effectively with people is really important for communication skills. And this is probably the most important one: how to increase sales and close deals. There is a system for doing it. I'll give you a little hint: be a consultant, not a salesperson. What else can you tell us, Dave? Nothing. It's all part of the course when I train your team to be able to be very effective communicators and being able to sell instantly to everybody up and when the subject comes around that people are interested in what you have. But how do they know what you have and how do you know what they want and all the rest of it? That's all part of the process of learning about communication skills. And last but not least is a list. So leadership communication touch points and the things that you should consider when it comes to being a really effective leader and getting me into work with your team, or just raising the bar for what your team deals with. First of all is this: interpersonal communications, then written communication, then conflict resolution and difficult conversations, team communication, motivation, negotiation and influence, crisis and change communication, cross-departmental and cross-functional communication, presentation skills for small groups and one-on-ones, dealing with difficult conversations, cultural sensitivity and inclusivity, problem solving and decision making communication, hiring, onboarding and letting go, and how to network effectively. Is there anything else here? No, that looks like the lot. Oh, what a surprise, there is. And the one that's missing is this: how to increase sales and also close deals. Otherwise, you could have a really good company that everyone loves working for and no money coming in. Bye-bye staff. We're all going to have to go because you've got to make sure there's revenue coming in. Do you have any questions? I did go through things very quickly. The questions you might be asking is, Dave, how do I get to work with you? Or can you send us more details? Or can we have a Zoom call? Or my team say they hate me, but you're saying it's just about communication styles. Yes, it is. But they might hate you as well. But it doesn't mean you can't turn it around. It depends on whether you want to actually be in a situation where you've got staff that love you, contribute to you, and never leave, like the Hotel California. So any questions, feel free to ask them into the group. You can text them now, or you can put them in the comment section. I'll come back to them later because we're just about to finish this session now. And I hate to think that you put stuff in and it also went bye-bye. So with those questions, what do you need to do next? I'm going to throw a few things at you, kind of like solutions to what you have to do. So I'll make myself smaller by doing this. There you go. Number 1, acknowledge the concerns they have. Listen actively and don't dismiss the issues. If you don't pay attention and don't value them, they will just take it to somebody else who does value, and that might be outside of your organization. Superpower your team. Literally, engage and overcome imposter syndrome. That's when they start thinking they're not as good as they would like to be, and a little voice that says you're going to make a fool of yourself if you speak or you stand up or you do anything. Imposter syndrome is a real challenge for many people. It doesn't have to be, because when you use it properly, it can fuel you and make you want to do bigger and better, and it's really, really powerful. Number 3 is this one. Create open spaces. So that means, create open forums, not spaces. You got to take them out of the field and say, right, bye. There you go. Everyone's really they're going off. Where we go? Get an ice cream. But it's a field. Yeah, they just checked it on Google Waze, which doesn't exist. And the beach is 10 miles in that direction. Well, why don't we just come back to the van? They don't like you. You didn't create an open forum. You took them to an open field. That spell check ruins everything. I was making up there. So host regular meetings for transparent communication so they do feel that they're valued, they do feel that you're talking to them on a regular basis. Number 4 is this. Break the ice. Be first to initiate tough conversations. When something's glaringly obvious and lots of staff are worried about it, go and deal with them as well. Ask the questions, get it out in the open. If they can't handle it, take them to one side and work with them. But do ask, otherwise they'll end up voting with their feet because nobody had any interest in them. Number 5, stay open-minded. Do not judge people because their diverse viewpoint is different to yours, but you never know what's caused it, and sometimes it's a pleasant surprise. And you go, oh, goodness me, I didn't know we could do it like that. And the answer was yes, but you didn't think you could. So stay open-minded, avoid snap judgments, and seek lots of different ways of looking at stuff. Number 6, ask more questions. Focus on getting it right. Focus on understanding everything. As a guy, it's typical for guys to want to fix everything and solve the problems. Whereas what women actually want is just an understanding from us, that we know what we're talking about. And we do, don't we? Yes, David. All right, so next up is this. Show genuine care. Tell stories, not just data-driven tasks. When you hear stories, your brain lights up. So your brain lights up into lots of different ways. There's about 7 different parts of your brain, which suddenly become much more illuminated through a CAT scan when you're telling stories. When you just share data and say, last year we did very well. We did better than we've ever done before. People go, okay, fine. And they yawn like that. If you say to them, let me tell you a story about what happened last year. From the eyes of a client I was working with who left, but also introduced to me 3 people who are going to replace them in different companies because they loved what we were doing so well. Wow! In that case, tell me more about it. Well, that's the whole point. You don't just give the data. Everyone can give that. Everyone can give your data. But when you start talking about the actual stories that matter, they resonate with people and they start to care. Number 8, be authentic. Tell the person that they should always care about the things that really matter. Communicate honestly, but don't do it in a scripted way. Let them know that this is you, this is how it works, and even if you disagree, you can agree to disagree. There's nothing wrong with that, but be honest and authentic. That matters most. Number 9, empower your team. Teach them how to be using ways of personal development. So when I learned personal development and I realized that my life is my fault, and if I've got really rubbish grades and everything that's going on, then once I know that, then it's up to me to be able to fix it, including turning around and saying, no, it's not for me. I don't want to have to do that. It's so important to empower kids. It's so important to empower everybody so they're able to raise their game. If they don't feel empowered, they just won't want to do it. They'll go back into what I mentioned at the beginning of today's show, which is to be actively disengaged and not care what anybody says because you don't care. All right, number 10 is follow up. Make sure that when you do have a meeting with your team, you do keep the communication lines open, you consistently engage and build trust so they start to value you. And it might be that when you follow up, you leave a report. It might be you do it on Slack. It might be an email. It might be a WhatsApp. It might just be a group hug. Doesn't matter. Make sure they know that what they do is of value to everybody, and then they'll want to do more of it. So with that, there's a question to ask. If you're going, yes, 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 at this point, but when I say, can you do it on your own? And you go, oh, no. Well, that's why you contact me. Do you want me to train your team? Anywhere in the world. We can take them on a special, retreat, or we can work in office, or we can work in a hotel, or we can do it online. There's lots of different options. I've worked all of them with lots of different people, and it's always fascinating to see what happens. In fact, to be honest with you, I'm going to share with you an event that I'm doing this week with an organization called A.W. Rostamani Group. And this is what happened when I worked with their staff before. Today I'm really blessed to be sharing with one of the biggest companies in Dubai how to become effective storytellers, how to become great speakers, how to sit on panels, how to moderate, and how to become the most effective communicators in their industry. Who wants to go first?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
We decided what's good about these businesses and how do we communicate it.
Oh, don't remind me, Dada. It's been a disaster, to be honest.
We had a situation which I would like to share with you, a story about Mark.
So we looked at what do the brands have in common that are good. Okay, well, they had very good people working for them. We had innovative product, and we had a relatively loyal customer.
So that's the mix that you want to be a killer mix. And that is what we say about diversification in real estate. So what does that give us? Come back to what Dave wants and the aspirations. That's the present and this is the future.
All of a sudden it started raining and I took Mr. Abdullah on the side into one of the bus waiting areas. And we sat right there while it's raining outside and I said, Mr. Abdullah, what if I told you there's a solution for that?
Yeah, the importance, I think, of the adaptability and not being, just resistant to change, because it's coming and this is the future and we need to be, working on ourselves. Hi, my name is Hala Kabara. I'm Head of Talent Development at A.W. Rostamani.
My name is John Knight. I'm the director of A.W. Rostamani Lifestyle.
I'm Manish. I'm working as Group Head of Tax with A.W. Rostamani.
Hey, my name is Maya. I'm the HR business partner working in AWR.
My name's Andrew, Head of Finance for Ventures at A.W. Rostamani.
Today, the session was very insightful, eye-opener.
I think today's session was really excellent.
Thank you for showing me how to incorporate storytelling into my public speaking.
I would like to thank you so much, Dave, for all these insightful and super powerful advices you have given us on how to do, executive public speaking.
And the best takeaway was how to draw a roadmap strategy on how you tell a story.
Thanks for an amazing session, Dave. Jump and grow wings on the way down. I'll never forget that.
Thanks for an amazing day under your coaching. I think some of the key attributes takeaways for me was stage presence.
When we talk about public speaking as conversation, and it's two ways communication between the speaker and the audience.
Dealing with nerves when talking to a large audience.
I learned more effectively how to translate ideas and thoughts to the larger audience.
And the framework in terms of storytelling throughout your presentation.
How I can manage any kind of presentations.
Which really make it really amazing how you can make it easy between you and the challenge of speaking in front of many audience.
Definitely I would recommend session with Dave to other people.
Thank you, Dave. It was amazing.
Cheers, Dave.
Thank you very much.
I can't recommend it highly enough. Can't wait to look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go, it's nice to know. So, thank you to the team from A.W. Rostamani in Dubai, the huge group with lots of huge companies working under them. Absolutely incredible. It's a real pleasure to work with them. But could I work with your team? Well, let's find out. Here's a QR code. Or you can go to, in fact, if you're listening to the podcast, you're wondering, Dave, I can't see the QR code. Can you just tell us what it is? Okay, if you go to HTTPS, in fact, just go to www.speakonstage.com/get-trained-by-Dave. It's all there. Or even just go to speakonstage.com and have a root around the tabs. You'll find it there. If not, just hold your phone up to the QR code there on your phone, or if your phone's got an active internet communication, you can just press it on your phone and it should take you directly to the website, and then you can set up a meeting for us both to work together. I'll put the details into the comments section on this podcast, so if you want to see how I can help your team raise their game, you don't have to be doing public speaking. You just have to be able to look after your team so they communicate better, more effectively, get motivated, and of course stay loyal. And when they stay loyal, they bring you more money. Why do they bring you more money, Dave, when they stay loyal? Well, because it's called staff retention. The more they stay there, the less you need to onboard new people to replace them. And they say it takes a whole year to replace somebody. It takes the time that they're winding down and waiting to go, where they're highly productive. And then it's got the looking for a new person. And then when that person goes, new person comes in. And it takes them a long time to be able to hit the ground running as they start to ease in. So you've lost a whole year's worth of really effective staff member before you can get back up to speed again with a new person. And so it's better really keeping the same team that you can do unless they're not effective enough. Does that make sense? Yes, Dave, it does. Thank you. He said, talking to himself far too much. And that brings us to today's show. And an end to everything. I really hope you enjoyed today's session, by the way, and that was of value to you, as I mentioned before. If you want any questions answered, put them down. He said playing his piano. That's what I do tend to. If you're doing the audio thing, it won't make sense. Send me a message so I can help you or your team to raise your game. If you're looking after some individual stuff for you, then contact me as well. I can help with that too. If you want to get gigs, or if you're looking to take it public, you can do. But if you're just looking to raise your team and get them certified to be able to be more effective as managers of every different department and industry, then we need to have that conversation. I look forward to catching up with you. Meanwhile, make sure you subscribe, make sure you take it easy, look after yourself, and keep talking. Remember to jump and grow wings on the way down. That's what life is really all about. And I'll see you next time, chatting loads and sharing loads as well on Speak on Stage. Thank you for tuning into another insightful episode of Speak on Stage with Dave Crane. We hope you found today's conversation inspiring and packed with valuable insights to help you to amplify your presence on stage too. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more aspiring speakers just like yourself. Remember, the stage is your platform to shine, and with the right tools and mindset, you can captivate any audience anywhere. So keep honing your craft, refining your message, and never shy away from the spotlight. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll dive even deeper into the world of public speaking and performance. Until then, keep speaking, keep shining, and keep making an impact. This is Dave Crane signing off. See you next time on Speak on Stage.